Welcome back to today's video. I'm here with Nathan, and today we're going to talk to you about Agile. So Nathan, why was Agile created?
Well, Agile was really created for the software industry back in the late 90s,
Right.
early 2000s. In 2001, I think is when the manifesto was actually signed. And the problem was really that software was taking 3 years, to build an application. And they'd do this long requirements phase, and then they would take a long time to build it. And then 3 years later, they can't, they're very rigid, and they don't want to change what, was originally, after the requirements phase is kind of locked. You can't change anything. So people started getting together and saying, like, we gotta fix this.
Right.
So they did, and so now instead of taking 3 years, we do these 2-week sprints. Now it's 2 weeks we deliver software, right?
Wait a second, hold on. So Agile got projects from 3 years down to 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's perfect. It's
That's
awesome. Yeah. So there you have it. Agile is way better because you go from 3 years to 2 weeks.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Serious note, why is Agile good for a team?
It's good because it does bring in some good philosophies of being flexible, not necessarily worrying about the tool, but being flexible and adapting to change.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Totally. All right. So then, what are some teams that Agile's not going to be good for? Because it's sort of the new catchphrase, right? Or I guess it's not really new anymore, but it's kind of the hip thing that everyone wants to do.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's not really the solution for everyone. So what are some industries or some teams that Agile's really not right for them?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question, and that's what we hear all the time. Is we talk to people that are like, "Wow, we're trying to do Agile, but we're running into these issues." And
right.
Those issues could be all kinds of things. Like, for instance, maybe they have dependencies on their project, between tasks.
Yeah.
And Agile isn't necessarily designed to handle the dependencies real well. What if the team isn't a dedicated team?
Right.
So what if that team is maybe an agency, as an example, right? We see this all the time. The agency might have a team that needs to work on 3 different projects, and they might need to do some kind of workload balancing or something like that, but they can't, and it just doesn't mesh exactly with the way a Scrum or Agile process is set up. What if the project has a deadline, right? So this, maybe a client or a boss, or for a business reason or objective, the project needs to be done in a certain time. Also, if you or your boss or your client just wants a visual timeline of the project, right? Someone wants to be able to see how long is a certain phase going to take, or what order do things need to be done in. It helps visualize the whole thing, right? And I think there's times when, for instance, for Agile, maybe there are those specific situations where it's just a dedicated software team working on this one project, that there is no deadline, and they're iterating, and everybody's fine with that. We don't need to have a whole structured plan. That's fine. But then there's other times where, you go to the other end of the spectrum, maybe a construction project. And exactly what needs to be done. How long everything should take, and what order everything should be done in. And you want to have a plan to make sure that you do all those things in time, right? So that's kind of an example of when you don't want to do Agile.
Right. So Agile's good for some people. The traditional sort of waterfall styles are good for people. But what do we see for the people that are in the middle? Is there space? Is there room for a blended approach?
Yes, absolutely. So that's actually the interesting thing we've been seeing a lot of lately. I mean, to us, it seems like probably about 80% of real-world companies are actually doing some type of blend, right? So maybe their team has a software component to a project,
right?
And they want to do some type of Agile process with that. But for maybe the overall project, they need to have some type of timeline, because there's an order that things need to be done in, right?
Yeah.
Like, maybe there's a research phase. Maybe there's a marketing component that needs to be done, blog posts that need to be scheduled around this. Maybe there's certain QA that needs to be done, or there is training that needs to be done. Certain email launches on certain dates.
Tutorial videos
that need to be done. There's all these things that play together.
Right.
And that's where being able to incorporate these traditional methods comes into play.
Right.
Because a lot of things do need to have this timeline, do need to have the dependencies. You could be working with multiple teams.
Yeah.
Right? You might have your video team that's got to create the tutorial videos. You've got your development team that needs to do stuff. You've got your design team that needs to do stuff. You've got your customer success team that needs to do things. You have your legal department that needs to do things. And these all need to come together and be orchestrated.
Right.
And without a good traditional plan, at least some element of that, you're setting yourself up for a lot of confusion.
Right.
So I think a lot of times that's where you have, on the business end of things, you need to be able to have some type of comprehensive plan.
Right.
But you want to be able to still include, you don't want to go back to the ways in the late 90s of saying we're going to plan out 3 years and we're going to stick to that and not change it and be rigid and not flexible.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I mean, I know with you guys you're in a unique position as you are a developer. I mean, you're still coding.
Right. Yep.
You're still coding. You're a developer. And you're also a business owner and you recognize business objectives. So you're kind of in that mix there. I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, totally. I think for us, we have a good blended approach where, we've broken out our, 4 or 5 main like features, some people will call them epics, into different projects. So these all have their traditional plans of, there's dependencies, things need to happen at a certain time, things need to be delivered by a certain time. But then, we are doing sprints. We're doing 3-week sprints. So what we do is going into sort of the backlog grooming phase and the sprint plan phase, we will look across our, 5 or 6 projects that we have, and we'll say, give us the tasks that are coming up in the next month.
Yeah.
And what that lets us do is, from the scheduling perspective, we're able to set the heading, right? We're able to, say, hey, this is where we want to be in a couple months from now.
Yeah.
But, on the smaller scale, on the sort of the week to week, the more, sprint cycle things, we're able to say, okay, this is what we need to do, this sprint cycle to get to here.
Right.
So we've got, the sprints are working great for that sort of like small bursts of efficiencies. But then we have the scheduling on top of that that really keeps us headed in a good path, and we don't get lost.
Yeah, and then it just helps with communication overall, kind of knowing like where are we headed, because people ask that all the time. What's going on, what's coming up next. At least then we have some idea.
Yeah, and like for us, dev kind of sits in the middle. There's the design phase that's for it, and then there's the marketing phase that's after it.
Right.
So it's important for us to keep our schedules relatively accurate so that marketing and customer support and success know when things are coming out, but then it's also important for us to have that somewhat accurate so design knows how much time they have to finish the next thing, because we don't want to get to a point where we go into our meeting to review designs and you're not ready because I didn't accurately communicate how far along we were, and so you didn't accurately do your job, which would really be my fault in that case. That wouldn't be your guys' fault. So, really it keeps the whole, sort of team and communication. You've got your traditional plan that keeps, again, keeps your heading going right.
Yeah.
But then you've got your sort of agile approach that's really helping you accomplish those goals.
And we're seeing this throughout the industry too. I mean, we're seeing a lot of other teams, a lot of other Silicon Valley tech teams and everybody that's doing this kind of thing because they need to be able to communicate what their plan is and how it all works together to executives, to management, to clients and everything. So this is a really common thing we're seeing. And we even held a meetup recently about this.
I was going to ask you, so for people who are looking for more info,
Yeah.
More resources on a more blended approach to their project management, like what would you recommend for them?
So we've noticed that this is happening a lot when we talk to people. Everyone's doing this. They're combining these different elements. They're picking and choosing what works for them. But there hasn't been a good place for everyone to go and talk about this.
Right.
So we just thought, let's hold a meetup on this.
Yeah.
And so just a few weeks ago, we actually held the first meetup in Philadelphia. This is where Brett Harned's from. He's our director of education. And so we held a meetup. We had about 45, 50 project managers there.
That's awesome.
A lot of digital, from digital agencies or from different lines of work. And we had one person, Justin Handler, who's a great guy from O3 World, which is an agency in Philadelphia. And he shared in detail his process.
Yeah.
Great presentations showing exactly how over the last 10 years that he's been at O3 World, how they've changed and how they've come up with a hybrid process or a blended process that combines agile and traditional methods into one, and it works really well for them. He went in such detail on their actual nitty-gritty. He's showing screenshots of their Gantt charts, screenshots of their boards, screenshots of different things, and he's talking about how they did it. and everyone's taking notes, and it was just really engaging. Tons of Q&A afterwards.
Yeah.
And it was a great time. And it was a great time because everyone was able to kind of walk away with that, with a good idea that they could go implement right away. So that's an interesting thing. If you want to check out and follow what's going on there, you can go to teamgantt.com /meetups, and you'll get directed to our Philadelphia meetup. If you're interested by any chance in running one of these, what we do is we actually get together. We have smoothies, because smoothies blended. Yeah, right. So we do that. We have smoothies, and it's just a chance to get together and hang out and talk to other peers and see what they're doing in detail. And we can help you put one of these on anywhere in the world or the U.S. and just let us know. Email us at support@teamgantt.com, and we'll be sure to help you get started if that's something you're interested in. Another thing is we actually have a great new series that's been being released lately called The Art and Science of Leading Projects. And that is where Brett Harnett himself, the Director of Education here at TeamGantt, shares his 20 years of experience talking about these things. And we have actually a chapter dedicated specifically to processes, and I really recommend checking that out too.
And also, if you're looking at experimenting with a little bit of a blended approach, all within TeamGantt, we've got something coming up for you.
Yeah, this is something that's in beta now. If you want to check it out, just email us at support@teamgantt.com. But it actually, we're putting boards into TeamGantt. So you have like a Kanban board, plays nice with your Gantt chart. So maybe you have a developer that doesn't want to look at a Gantt chart. Most of them don't. I don't know why, but they don't. So that's fine. And so they can actually see all their tasks for their team in a board, and they can move it through columns, and it'll feel just like a simple board to them. But yet, as a project manager or someone that needs to get the full timeline view, you can see all those same things still in the Gantt chart and connect them. And then as your developers move things across the board, it actually updates the percent complete and will update your Gantt chart automatically. So it's actually a pretty cool thing. If you're interested in checking that out, let us know. We'd be happy to work directly with you. Just shoot us an email at support@teamgantt.com.
Well, cool. Well, that's all we have time for today. So thanks for checking in with us.